Hello there and welcome to part 3 of my build of Airfix's 1/72nd Focke-Wulf FW190A-8, the FW190. Since the last video I've just done a little bit more touching up with the filler for a few gaps, dropped the flaps there on the wing, which meant very carefully having the wing supported and cutting through. Now I didn't take it off completely and readjust as I did with the ailerons at the back. The reason is I discovered panel line at the top and the panel line on the bottom aren't actually in line with each other. I don't know if maybe on the original it was fabric, so maybe the top part split away and it was fabric on the bottom perhaps, and therefore the join, maybe there was a step sort of join or something on there. But what I ended up doing was to cut through and score the top part and score the bottom. Carefully managed to bend it down slightly on each end. It's going to give it a slightly more natural position. So I've just gone round with some filler, especially that area on the back where I took far too much off when I was trying to make sure it fitted, and I took a little bit of sprue just to put in there, wait for that to go in there with some Tamiya extra thin, plenty of filler on there, rubbed it down, but it should now give us a more smoother finish. Also I filled in the little hole there where normally the gun sight actually comes through from the top of the instrument panel. It just didn't really seem to fit properly. I don't know if I've misaligned or trimmed too much off when I was putting it on, but I've decided what I'll do is just to get a very clear, small clear piece of acetate or something and put the gun sight on there when I'm actually fitting on the canopy. God, I think the first thing I'm going to have to do though, before doing anything else, is to scribe out some of the extra filler that's gone in there, because some of that filler has gone into panel lines. So I've got a little re-scribing tool. This is a Tamiya re-scribing tool. I've also got a little pointy thing. Got a few other sanding sticks just to smooth it all down, as well as a few of these steel templates. One of the tricky things with this is it's such a small scale in 1/72. It's hard trying to get this in, holding it in the right place so I can re-scribe in those panel lines. Last time I was trying to re-scribe, it was on a 1/48 Harrier, and it was actually quite a large flat surface. It was quite easy to lay this down on and draw across, and I'm also doing it on a 1/42 Osprey, which is quite a big kit. So for something this small and dainty, it's quite hard to get in there, and it is quite easy to get carried away with a tool like this, dragging it along and tearing out far too much plastic. Anyway, let's carry on. Almost done. Just trying to get this back in whereabouts I'd had to fill it and file it down to get it nice smooth. So we've now got a nice smooth surface. Fortunately, I can still see whereabouts the panel lines go because I've got the white filler in there. So I think pretty much done with the re-scribing, but before I get the primer on, there's a couple of things that I need to do. First of all is I got ahead of myself, silly, and put this headrest on and the support for it. What I should have done is I shouldn't have got ahead and done that. The reason is I put it in the closed position. I didn't realise that actually that is normally attached to the canopy, and I'm going to be having it in the canopy open position, and that would mean that if the canopy is slid back, as it will be for this model, that headrest would actually slide back along with the rear part of the canopy. So what I now need to do is remove what I've put on there, clean anything up if necessary, have to repaint that area no doubt, then I can start getting the canopy. And before the canopy goes on as well, I'm also going to need to put a little something on there just to act for that gun sight. So I think I should just be able to lever this off with a scalpel. Let's get the scalpel. Actually, that's going straight under there, so that wasn't a very good join at all. It's going to be the main part that's holding it in place though at the back. Phew! Almost lost that to the carpet monster. Saved that just in time. That's come off a lot cleaner than what I thought it would do. I think what I need to do is mask up the canopy and get all that ready so that can get a coat of the RML 66 at the same time whilst I'm neatening that up. Now remember, the canopy actually had 2 rear canopy sections to it and only one front. What I'll do is I'll take off both and mask both up at the same time, because if one of them doesn't work too well, then hopefully the second will be okay, because I'll be using one as the mask for priming and painting, and it is always possible that during that process the tape could get notched. So if I've got 2, it'd be silly not to take advantage of that. So let's take these canopy bits off. Okay, there is a difference. There is a difference. When you look from the side view, there's actually this further one, which is going to be part 3, drops back, whereas this closer one to the camera, part 4, goes along straight first of all, and then, so it has a bit more of a goes along and then goes down, whereas that one is more goes down on the curve straight away. Right, so a quick check of the instructions, and it quite clearly says D3 there. It's definitely best when cutting clear parts from the sprue to try to leave a little extra bit of sprue there, just a millimetre or so. Don't go right up to the side of it, because that's very easy just to remove with a scrape or 2 of a medium sanding file. However, if you go too near, it can pull out a little notch, and again then you're left with more filling, more sanding to do at a later date, or even worse would be little holes and notches in the side of your canopy. Well, let's do what I consider to be the worst part I find of making a model, which is masking the canopy. It's small, it's fiddly, it's quite time consuming, and if you get it wrong, it can really ruin a model or take a lot of effort in putting it right. It's just going to be a case of pulling up my sleeves, getting on with it, and wish me luck. It's always worth making sure, and doing it very carefully, that you have fresh scalpel blades for this. I was about to use the one I've already got in there, and I thought, no, let's make sure I use a fresh one. What I appear to have done is to just trimmed off about half a millimetre too much then. So I'm just going to have to pop a little strip on just to try to make up for it. Phew, got there in the end. Managed to get that taped up now. Go along the straight line, and then using the little cocktail stick, try to push it in, and then using the sharp scalpel blade, run across, and in some pieces had to do it in a few sort of sections just to go around the curves as well. So I think it's about time to put on the Vallejo model there. So what I've done is to mask up the canopy and also just put a bit of tape on the inside as well. I've taken a little bit of kitchen roll, just a square of it, rolled it up into a little ball and just popped it into the cockpit just to mask that, and then used a little bit of masking tape just to cover the back of it off where the straps were just sticking up. What I'll do whilst I'm there is I might as well put a bit down in there, and anything that I've then got left in the brush, what I'll do is I'll fire it around some of the places where I've had to make a few joins and a few seams, because it's actually a lot easier to see how those seams are going to look once it's actually got a coat of paint on there. It all feels quite smooth, but you never know whether things are going to be too smooth or whether I've gone too overboard with the re-scribing. Right, so that paint's just run out, just the perfect amount in there. I've just managed to get a little bit of the RML 66 on those frames, so that should come out quite well. I've also tried to make sure that I've shot a little bit at an angle at those bits where they're going to be open, so you'll see hopefully the framework when the canopies are apart. What I have done is to just pop over those bits where I just had to remove the headrest and the little part up there where I filled in, where I took out the gun sights. I've just gone over the bits where I had filler in, little joins where I had to re-scribe that part at the back. Also under here there was a few little bits that of course needed a little bit of filler, a few little touchy up bits. The gap was slightly large from where the wings actually come onto the fuselage, not massively so, but I did run a little bit of filler in there. What I'm going to do is prime it in white. The reason I'm going to do that is because this plane has a lot of blacks and greys. Normally I prime in grey, but I sometimes find if you're priming in grey then you're painting grey, it can be a bit hard to differentiate, and then do any pre-shading in more of a darker grey, not a black. That might be a bit too contrasty. And then put those greys and those colours over the top. I think a dark grey primer with black pre-shading and then more coats of various shades of dark grey on top, then plus any weathering, is just going to turn it into quite a dark looking plane. Hopefully, all being fine, get the primer on it tomorrow.